There is a clear shift happening across e-commerce right now, and it is not coming from one place. It is coming from compliance tightening, cash flow pressure, discovery changing, and platforms taking more control at the same time. If you are running a brand, you are feeling this whether you can fully articulate it or not. Let's start where the risk is the highest. Amazon is making it very clear that they do not view your accounts as separate entities anymore. They view them as one system, which means if one account violates policy, every linked account can go down with it. The part most sellers miss is sequencing. You do not fix the impacted accounts first, you fix the root account first, and only then can you even start to recover the rest. This is no longer an account level issue, it is an entity level risk. And if your structure is sloppy, your accounts are not clearly separated, or your justifications are weak, you are exposed in a way most sellers are not prepared for. Now layer that with what is happening on the financial side. Amazon's DD+7 reserve is not just a policy update, it is a cash flow shift. You are now waiting 7 days after delivery to access funds, which sounds manageable until you actually operate inside it. Your inventory cycles slow down, your ad spend gets tighter, and your ability to move fast gets constrained. Larger brands can absorb this, but smaller operators cannot. What we are seeing across accounts is not confusion about the rule. It is friction in execution. Funds are not releasing when expected, reporting is not lining up, and time is being spent reconciling instead of operating. This tells you exactly where Amazon is going. They are pushing reliability to the buyer side and pushing financial pressure to the seller side. Now step back from Amazon for a second, because this is not just a marketplace story. Pennsylvania is introducing stricter rules around email and SMS marketing, which means more consent requirements, tighter data usage rules, and real penalties for getting it wrong. This matters more than most people realize because retention has been one of the last channels brands actually control. If that gets compressed, your ability to re-engage customers drops, which means customer acquisition cost goes up while lifetime value comes down. That is not a marketing problem. That is a business model problem. At the same time, retailers are not slowing down. Ulta is doubling its store fulfillment capabilities, which means speed is no longer a differentiator, it is the baseline. If your inventory is not positioned correctly, you are not just slower, you are effectively invisible in certain regions. And this is usually the point where brands start to feel the pressure stack. Not from one issue, but from all of them happening at once, including compliance risk, cash flow constraints, slower inventory turns, rising acquisition costs, and less control over retention. Individually, each one is manageable, but together they create hesitation. And hesitation is where performance starts to slip because decisions take longer, teams second guess, and execution slows down. This is where I want to pause for a second because this is the exact problem we spend most of our time solving at BellaVix. Most brands do not struggle because they lack information. They struggle because they have too much of it and no clear way to turn it into action. They know something is off, but they cannot isolate where. They know performance is flattening, but they cannot connect it back to root causes. They feel the pressure in margins, in cash flow, and in growth, but it is not always obvious what lever to pull next. What we do is bring structure to that. We look at the business as a system, not as isolated channels or tactics. We break down where constraints are actually forming, whether that is in inventory planning, advertising efficiency, catalog structure, or account health risk, and then we build a plan that the team can execute without hesitation. Because at this level, speed matters, clarity matters, and consistency matters even more. BellaVix has helped brands generate over $500 million on Amazon. We are a verified ad partner, and we stay very hands-on in the execution because strategy without execution does not move the P&L. If you are in a position where things feel more complex than they should, or decisions are taking longer than they used to, that is usually the signal that structure needs to catch up with scale. You can learn more at BellaVix.com. Now let's keep moving because discovery itself is starting to change. Sephora is rolling out AI inside their app to guide product discovery through interaction, not just search, which means customers are no longer relying only on keywords, they are being led to decisions. If your product data is not clear, structured, and complete, you do not show up in that flow. At the same time, search itself is shifting because generative AI is moving visibility from ranking on a page to being included in the answer. You are no longer just competing for clicks, you are competing to be selected before the customer even sees options. If your content is generic, templated, or looks like everyone else, you disappear because AI is raising the floor and increasing the expectation of quality. The edge is not in producing more content, it is in executing better content with clear positioning, structured data, and actual differentiation. Now take that one step further into social. Meta is pushing deeper into AI-driven discovery with creators and now layering in affiliate partnerships, which means creators are not just promoting products, they are getting paid on performance. This aligns incentives and turns creators into a scalable acquisition channel, but it also means you give up control because your brand is now represented across multiple voices instead of one. TikTok is taking this even further by predicting demand and amplifying what it believes will convert, which means control over visibility continues to move away from the seller and deeper into the platform. This creates volatility because you can scale quickly, but you can also drop just as quickly if signals weaken. Now bring this back to retail. Walmart is expanding into connected TV through Vizio, which means discovery is moving into content environments instead of traditional search or even feeds. Products are being surfaced while customers are consuming content, not actively shopping. Again, you do not control that experience, the platform does. At the same time, Etsy is reinforcing that listing quality is the foundation of visibility. If your data is incomplete, inconsistent, or unclear, your visibility drops, not because you are doing something wrong, but because someone else is doing it better. Then you have the broader signal from NRF, which is increased regulatory pressure across labor, supply chain, data, and compliance. This means pressure is not coming from one direction, it is coming from everywhere at once. Operations slow down, costs increase, and flexibility decreases. At the same time, brands are experimenting with low-cost tactics like sticker marketing, not because it is a breakthrough strategy, but because paid acquisition is getting expensive enough that brands are searching for incremental efficiency wherever they can find it. That tells you the real story, which is that efficiency is getting harder to maintain. Now let's close this out with one final point. There is a lot of conversation around AI taking over commerce, but what we are seeing with early checkout attempts is that discovery and transaction are not the same problem. AI is very effective at guiding customers to products, but whoever owns payments, fulfillment, and logistics still owns the conversion. That is why marketplaces are not going anywhere, and why infrastructure still matters more than interface. When you zoom out, the pattern becomes very clear. Compliance is tightening, cash flow is tightening, discovery is shifting, control is consolidating, and costs are rising. Which means the edge is not in hacks, it is in execution. Clean data, clear systems, fast decisions. If you are operating at a high level, that is not new, but it is getting more important every single week. Appreciate you spending time with me today. If this helps you see what is actually changing behind the curtain, make sure you are subscribed and leave a review. Mr. Will here, signing off from Selling on Giants. Let's keep building.